Welcome back to Thumb Hobby. Now today for the Snapmaker 2.0 series that I've created, I'm going to show you what I've done to be able to print TPU at a efficient rate. It's been quite some time dealing with this. There are a lot of variables as far as the speed, heat, hardware that's involved in this, but I've got together a good list of everything that I want to show you guys. So let's jump into this video and check this out. So before I took the steps to make the adjustments on my printing, I was looking at this horrible gaps, spacing, stringiness. These parts were just a complete and utter mess. I didn't know what to do. So the first thing I did, I started with the ground up. I got a glass bed. Great difference there. Not a whole lot for the print, but for the adhesion, it was great. Some of the problems that I was working with throughout the layers on it, I found that I got myself a new nozzle, a new hardened nozzle that was more efficient. So my prints were going from looking like crap to looking better. Again, there are several steps that I had taken in order to make it to this process. Now, height is a factor here. Sometimes support is a thing, but we're going to get into all of those here in just a minute. The goal of my video to show you this today is to help you to get from printing good individual parts to multiple parts, not just one, not just two, but parts back to back to back until you're literally pumping out dozens of parts back to back like I have been lately on this wonderful machine. I love this machine. So we're going to get right into that now. So for my 15 settings for having a good TPU print off of Snapmaker 2.0 with Luban, I'm going to start off with the top and work my way down. So initially, the first setting, when you get your print going, always watch the first layer. If your first layer isn't laying down right, there's obviously a problem, and it continue throughout the print. Now, as far as settings within the machine, make sure that your flow is at 100%. You want as much filament coming out as possible. That way you can get the maximum amount of your print yield. Next, you want to have your bed heated at least for the first layers. TPU, depending on the print, I like to have a raft. If it's something thin, it's going to be on there for a while. It could raise up, so just use a raft. Also, disable your retraction. That can lead to extra stringiness. My fan rate I have at 50%. So that's also a good thing. You don't want it completely off, but if you have it on too high, the fan will cool down the print too fast and it doesn't look very good. You want your layer width to be at 100% as well. That's always a good thing to have. Travel speed. Now, not your print speed, not your inside your walls, your infill density speed, anything like that, but your layer speed initially, you want that to be as high as possible. I have mine set personally at 1000. It moves, it's nice, and I have minimal stringy. There's no cobweb looking stuff at all whatsoever. I have a little bit of a drip around the contact edges where the nozzle goes back and forth if it travels across the print, but that's it. Make sure that you have good filament. Good filament is always a great thing. You want to make sure that you're using quality. Everybody swears by Ninja Tech Cheetah. That's always a good brand to go with. I have not used that yet. I have been waiting to use that because I wanted to make sure that I could print with the regular stuff before I moved on to wasting higher grade material. Now, as far as the last setting that we can do on your programming, your slicer, your Luban, whatever like that, just always double check and make sure that the file is good, it's solid. If you have Cura or if you're running another setting, it'll tell you whether or not the file itself, after you have generated the G code, is manifold or not. Luban does not have that yet. They just recently updated some settings, but they still do not have that. So that's it for the programming. Now the rest of it I'm going to go over with the machine itself. The next step that's always great to do is bake your filament. Most people will recommend to bake your filament for at least a day. I've heard 24 hours, I've heard 12 hours, I've heard about 120 all the way up to 130, sometimes 150. The Next best thing to do after that, and this could work if your material has been sealed well, is to have a filament dryer to use while you are printing. This will keep the air flow away from the TPU. If there's any humidity, moisture in the air, it will keep it out of it. I normally have mine set all the way up to 55 degrees Celsius, and I will keep a silica pack in it while it's on. The material will run from the top here directly into the hot end at the top of the printer. There's not a whole lot of space from the filament box to the hot end, so in the time that it takes for the filament to reach from point A to point B, it shouldn't have grabbed any moisture out of the air in the time that it takes to print. As you can see down here, I have the filament being printed on a glass plate. This is not the bed that is supplied with your Snapmaker. I have this off Amazon. If you're interested in checking this out, I do have a video on this with a link to get it. That's always a good thing to do. I love the glass bed, just the adhesion on it and everything is way better. So I would always make sure to, a lot of things can happen, heat can change, thicknesses of stuff, whatever. Just always make sure to calibrate your bed. It takes a total of, I think, maybe 5 minutes. If you do it on the 25-point mode that's on here, it'll check 20 or 5 different spaces for your X and your Y axis, so it makes sure everything is nice and tightened up. Also, I have a new nozzle on here. Every time I switch the filament, it's hardened. Good one to have. They don't wear out easy, and not brass. Make sure that they are steel. Now, the number one step in all of this that I found that has been the most helpful and effective out of everything as far as printing TPU with the Snapmaker 2.0 is this little secret right here. And it is located right inside this door. This door right here, you open this up. I have already made the change. But the biggest problem out of everything is this space right here. The filament comes down, it gets pinched, and it wants to spin out, and it will get kinked up inside of the direct drive system. And the reason for that being, like I said, I have already fixed this, but is the little spring that's located right here inside this door. This is a spring that I went to the hardware store and got that has a lot less tension than the original spring here that was provided with the machine. This spring here has way too much tension on it, and with printing a softer filament, it pinches the filament as it comes through the direct drive, causing it to kink and bow out. I have had dozens of times, I've changed the settings, I've changed the flow, I've changed the heat, everything, only to come back a couple hours later and find out that the nozzle is an inch above the print and this has been jammed up for who knows how long, and the whole print is crap. So, number one reason right here for fixing things on your Snapmaker is because this filament will get pinched. So make sure above all, this is the final thing that you fix. So the last step in preparing to print your TPU filament is this right here. Make sure that this spring has been swapped out. I've seen some people have taken and they've used a spring out of a pen for the clicker in the end of it. I just went and got one that was the same diameter. That way everything fit in nice and neat. It is a lot less tension on it, and that will be the ultimate fix in helping you print TPU on the Snapmaker 2.0. There are 2 final tips that I would like to give when it comes to printing this. Now, as we know, the Z-axis travels up and down, but it also carries on the Y-axis to go from your left to right to supply the filament to the top of the print. The plate goes on your X-axis. Now, with that being said, the movement is always in a 45-degree angle as it's going down on the print. So as shown here in these prints with a different orientation, if you are having a problem with strigginess from point to point, it may be better off for you to take and reorient the point where the part is sitting by 45 degrees, as I have shown here. I found if I had it in any sequence of the 45 degrees, if it wasn't on like a flat 90 or 180, I achieved a lot better print with less strain due to the fact that the infill wasn't running out to the side of the print. Second tip I would like to share is with the layer of the settings for the height in the bottom. Now I have found that with this I can actually eliminate the infill on it altogether. As you've seen here, it is at 278 layers. My layer thickness is at 0.1. So I took and I multiplied 278 by 0.1, which is obviously 27.8. Now I turn around and divide that by 2 equals 13.9. I set both my height for my top and my bottom thickness to 13.9, giving it a solid layer without any infill. So that is my printing settings that I have for you today. My goal ultimately is to help to eliminate you from ending up with a pile of mess like this. I'd like to give a shout out to my wife. She has been very patient with me, clogging up half the kitchen with this stuff laying all over the place, and now it is finally gone. So I'm sure she'll be happy when she gets home today. And that's the end of this video for now. This is Thumb Hobby. I'll have another one up soon. Thank you for watching.